When people think of World War II, they imagine steel giants like the Tiger or the Panther rolling across Europe in brutal armored clashes. But behind the front lines, a quieter revolution was taking shape. Weapons that screamed through the sky, ignored traditional artillery rules, and rewrote the future of warfare. These were the first rocket weapons of modern war. Let's explore these steel machines, starting with the earliest battlefield rockets. Panzerfaust. The German Panzerfaust, literally meaning armor fist, was a single-use anti-tank rocket designed for desperate close-range combat late in the war. Fired from a simple tube, it launched a shaped-charge warhead capable of penetrating even heavy Allied armor at distances under 60 meters. Its low cost and minimal training requirements made it ideal for Volkssturm units, though its short range often forced soldiers into extremely dangerous firing positions. This weapon foreshadowed the modern disposable anti-tank launcher. Panzerschreck, officially known as the Raketenpanzerbuchse, the Panzerschreck was Germany's reusable answer to Allied armor. Inspired by captured American bazookas, it fired a larger 80mm rocket with significantly improved penetration. However, the rocket's exhaust forced crews to use protective blast shields, and its size made it cumbersome in urban combat. Despite these flaws, it remained one of the most feared infantry anti-tank weapons on the battlefield. M1 Bazooka. The American M1 Bazooka became the world's first widely used man-portable rocket launcher. It fired a fin-stabilized rocket capable of disabling early German tanks, giving infantry a long-needed anti-armor capability. While later German armor reduced its effectiveness, the bazooka proved the concept of lightweight rocket warfare and inspired nearly every post-war infantry launcher. Piat. Britain's Piat, or projector infantry anti-tank, used a spigot-launched rocket system rather than a traditional tube. This design eliminated backblast, allowing firing from enclosed spaces, but produced heavy recoil and inconsistent accuracy. Despite its awkward handling, the Piat achieved notable success in Normandy and urban fighting. RPG-40. The Soviet RPG-40 was a hand-thrown anti-tank grenade using a shaped charge rather than a rocket motor. Though technically not a launcher-based rocket, it represented early shaped charge technology, critical to later rocket weapons. Its extremely short range made it risky, but it paved the way for future Soviet designs. Type 4. At rocket launcher. Japan's Type 4 anti-tank rocket launcher was developed late in the war to counter Allied armor in the Pacific. Light and simple, it fired a rocket capable of damaging lighter tanks, but struggled against heavier armor. Limited production and late deployment reduced its overall impact. Type 3. Anti-aircraft rocket. The Japanese Type 3 was designed as a shoulder-fired rocket to disrupt low-flying aircraft. Its effectiveness was minimal due to poor guidance and limited explosive power, but it demonstrated Japan's interest in rocket-based air defense. Nebelwerfer 41. Germany's Nebelwerfer 41 was a multi-barrel rocket launcher originally designed for smoke and chemical warfare. Its 6 150mm rockets produced a terrifying howl, earning it the nickname Screaming Mimi. While inaccurate, its psychological impact and saturation fire made it highly effective in disrupting enemy formations. Nebelwerfer 42. An evolution of the earlier design, the Nebelwerfer 42 fired larger 210mm rockets with increased explosive yield. However, its smoke trails exposed firing positions, making rapid relocation essential. Katyusha BM-13. The Soviet Katyusha, officially designated BM-13, became the most iconic rocket artillery system of WWII. Mounted on trucks, it launched salvos of 132mm rockets capable of devastating wide areas in seconds. Although inaccurate individually, its overwhelming firepower and mobility made it a symbol of Soviet offensive doctrine. Katyusha BM-8. The lighter BM-8 fired smaller rockets and was often mounted on tanks or light vehicles. It sacrificed explosive power for mobility, allowing Soviet forces to deploy rockets closer to the front lines. Katyusha BM-31. The BM-31 launched massive 300mm rockets designed for maximum destructive effect against fortified positions. Limited mobility and long reload times reduced its flexibility, but its raw firepower was unmatched. Calliope T-34. The American Calliope was a rocket launcher mounted atop the M4 Sherman tank. Firing 60 rockets in rapid succession, it provided area suppression but compromised the tank's profile and visibility. Its limited use reflected American preference for traditional artillery. Land mattress. The British land mattress was a ground-launched rocket system adapted from naval designs. It fired spin-stabilized rockets with improved accuracy compared to earlier systems. Despite late deployment, it showed promise in supporting infantry assaults. Type 4, 20 cm rocket mortar. Japan's Type 4 rocket mortar launched large rockets intended for coastal defense. Its immobility and vulnerability to air attacks limited effectiveness, but it demonstrated Japan's awareness of rocket artillery trends. Wurfrahmen 40. Mounted on half-tracks, the German Wurfrahmen 40 launched large rockets used in urban combat. Its destructive power was immense, but accuracy was poor, making it a terror weapon rather than a precision tool. RP-3. The British RP-3 air-to-ground rocket was widely used by Allied fighter bombers. It proved highly effective against tanks, ships, and locomotives, though accuracy depended heavily on pilot skill. R4M Orkan. Germany's R4M Orkan was an air-launched rocket designed to destroy Allied bombers. Fired in salvos, it allowed fighters to attack from outside defensive gun range. Though introduced late, it influenced post-war air-to-air weapons. Transition, guided rockets soon emerged. Ruhrstahl X-4. The X-4 was one of the world's first wire-guided air-to-air missiles. Technologically advanced, it suffered from reliability issues and never reached operational deployment. Fritz X. The German Fritz X was a guided anti-ship bomb using rocket propulsion for control. It famously sank the Italian battleship Roma, proving the deadly potential of guided weapons. Type 3. Number 101. Mk-28. Rocket used by Japanese aircraft. This rocket was designed for bomber interception. Its limited guidance and small warhead reduced effectiveness, but it marked Japan's entry into aerial rocket warfare. Tiny Tim. The American Tiny Tim was a massive air-launched rocket developed late in the war. Intended for hardened targets, it had enormous destructive power, but saw limited combat use. V-1 flying bomb. Germany's V-1, often called the flying bomb, was an early cruise missile targeting British cities. It caused widespread destruction, but suffered from inaccuracy and vulnerability to interception. V-2 rocket. The V-2 was the world's first ballistic missile, capable of reaching the edge of space. Impossible to intercept, it represented a technological leap, though its strategic impact did not justify its immense cost. Wasserfall missile. The Wasserfall was a surface-to-air guided missile intended to defend against Allied bombers. Development delays and technical issues prevented deployment. Rheintochter missile. Designed as an anti-aircraft rocket, Rheintochter showed promise, but never reached combat readiness. Enzian missile. The Enzian was a guided anti-bomber rocket using proximity detonation concepts. Technological complexity limited its success. Typhoon rocket. The Typhoon was an unguided anti-aircraft rocket intended for mass launch against bomber formations. Accuracy issues ended its development, but it influenced later rocket saturation tactics. World War II transformed rockets from experimental curiosities into weapons that reshaped modern warfare. From shoulder-fired launchers to the first ballistic missiles, these systems changed how wars would be fought forever. In the next episode, we'll dive deeper into another hidden revolution of WWII, the rise of guided missiles and early smart weapons. Subscribe to continue the journey through history.